Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Welcome back, Sixers, to another episode of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. Today is episode 172 on October 7th, 2024. I'm Bill, and I am joined, as always, by my militant co-hosts, Amy and Jordan.
Well, it's funny you should mention that. It's time to go on a rampage. Let's do this.
I guess I did join the Empire for the second time, so you know.
You would.
Wait, so it's like, let's go back. Let's do this again.
Well, the Empire does strike back, so.
It does.
Well, fair point. Okay, I walked into that, and I'm just going to have to take that.
Before we get started, we do want to remind all our listeners that the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is not a spoiler-free podcast. That means if there is something in the Cosmere that you haven't read and you're worried about hearing spoilers, you might want to go read those first, then come back and join the discussion. And remember, we are way into spoiler territory right now because we are continuing our read of the preview chapters that Brandon has been releasing for the past several weeks. He is releasing preview chapters for Wind and Truth, and he's doing about 2 per week, but this week this episode we actually have 5 to discuss. We're going to talk about chapters 16 to 20. I was thinking we might go back and fill in what we weren't able to get to last time. I don't think we're going to have time. This may be a matter of leave it. We don't look back. There's just too much coming.
There's so much. There's so much. I think we're just gonna have to go with the flow and kind of.
I think we're gonna have to do that because otherwise we're just gonna get more and more behind.
Maybe I'll do a TikTok or something later where I comment on the stuff I know we didn't comment on or whatever. We'll see.
So either way, we've got that going on again, and that's going to continue probably until Dragonsteel. So unfortunately we're going to be spoiler heavy, but it's getting good. It's definitely worth checking out. So for those of you who listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube after the fact, we do want to remind you that it's possible for listeners to interact with us live via chat as we record each episode at www.youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. We record episodes every other Monday night, starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, so please join us and take an active part in the discussion. The Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. The show will, of course, continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, head over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. Even pledging a couple bucks per episode really helps us out as we work to continue to improve the show. Patrons get immediate access to our Discord channel where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere with other listeners. We've got a great community. We've got some great discussions, and you'll also get early access to bonus episodes, exclusive access to other bonus content, and other good stuff. For example, I actually will post, I cook a lot lately, and I post my pictures of my food in there, so you can go check that out. But this week, we want to specifically thank one of our newest patrons, Maddie.
Yay!
Maddie is a longtime friend of ours from back in the college days, and she's just been very supportive and awesome and amazing and wonderful. So
yeah, Maddie is the best. She's one of my most common splicicles over on my stream. So if you want to get to know her, you should definitely join over there too.
Yep, she's just a great person. All right, well, how have things been going?
I fan-X'd. That's what I did.
All right, Amy, why don't you just go on and
okay.
Gush.
So I got to see Brandon twice. I got 2 lightning signings, and I had my friend with me for one of them. And so I had him sign the most boring book ever because I totally spaced bringing any books to have him sign. So I'll put it here. And
wait, you got 2 lightning signings, but you didn't bring any books for signing to sign.
It was a chaotic, crazy trip to go. Yeah, because I had a hotel with my friend, so I made sure I had everything packed, and then I spaced that part because too many things. I was trying to figure out how to fit all the costumes in my car. But no, so the first time I was my Nazgul and I had my hood down and stuff, so I'm just like with my Nazgul gauntlets holding the most boring book ever. And my friend is dressed up as the One Ring Tutu, and so she like manipulated the book for me. So that was fun. And he recognized me, or he remembered who I was and everything. And then I saw him. That was the
With
Friday.
your hood down?
I had my hood
down.
down.
like
off my
down.
head. So
Sorry,
you could see.
I thought you meant forward. Got
so
it.
I just looked like I was
like,
wearing
what was
a big.
he doing? Listening to the rhythms of Amy? Like, how did he do that?
I wish, but no. No, but he remembered who I was. And then the next day I came as a biker scout, but I had my helmet and my gloves off. And I part of me wishes I'd left them on, but it's okay. And I was like, I'm back again. And he's like, yes, you are. And he signed that one. And that one I got signed was Dawn Shard. I just bought, it was one of the cheaper books that he had. And I ended up giving that one to somebody who's in the 501st booth with me. And she is a huge fan. And I was like, you know what? She's like, oh, you got it signed. That's so cool. And I was like, you know what? You want it? And she's like, yes. So I gave away one of my lightning signings. That's okay.
Nice.
Because I am very blessed that way I got to meet Scar, and he was really nice. And so I gave him some 501st coins because I had some. And somebody traded us as a Jawa trader. I got a Sandersonian Collectors Guild pin.
Nice.
And
My mic was off.
I got lots of things. Like one of the craziest things that we got as the Jawa traders was a Chick-fil-A packet, but then somebody also traded in a Black Series toy. Of like,
is that a big deal? I don't know.
They're kind of nice. I mean, this is for random crap that we had. So no, it was really pretty good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then when we talk about things in the other section, I have visuals of those. But FanX was very fun. It was very fun. I didn't end up going to his panel, which I was sad about, but we can talk about that in a bit if you'd like, because I chatted a lot.
Very cool. Well, I have been making a nice variety of soups lately. Recently I did a Thai coconut soup. I've done it twice actually in the past couple of weeks, because I did with tofu the first time, and then I swapped out the tofu for shrimp this most recent time. And oh my gosh, it was so good.
How firm was the tofu? Was it like the mid one? Or
I got the extra firm.
Okay. I haven't cooked with tofu very much. So
yeah, I just sliced it into strips and put it in.
There you go.
And then today I smoked a chicken and then turned it into chicken noodle soup. So, and smoking a chicken is not a euphemism. I literally put a chicken in the smoker. So
yeah, we've done that. It's fun.
Yeah, smoked. I learned from Bill today that smoked chicken noodle soup is different from smoked chicken noodle soup.
Yeah. Smoked chicken noodle soup or smoked chicken noodle soup are two different things.
Okay, that's true. Yep.
It's sort of like if you've ever seen Bedknobs and Broomsticks, they see a bottle of poisoned dragon's liver, and the kid pops up and he just says, do you poison the dragon or just the liver? So anyway.
There you go.
Jordan, how about you? What have you been up to?
I got a job.
Ta-da!
I want to thank everyone that have been praying for me and thinking of me and stuff like that. Yes, I am finally employed. Not quite to full-time status yet. It's on a temporary contract, but we're just going to do a good enough job that they will have but no choice but to keep me on.
There you go.
I mean, I expected no less.
Yeah, so thanks everyone who's been thinking of me and praying for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, from that point, speaking of monetization, Jordan, let's move on into our announcements and see how we're doing on our push to full monetization of the podcast.
We are at 3,578 total view hours. We need to get to 4,000 to get to full monetization. So we're going to need a big push here before before Dragonsteel.
Yeah.
Does that take us to any Bing number or what X%? Or do
I didn't do that part.
Okay, no worries.
I did it the last second because
not quite enough. Bing.
Forgot to do that.
Okay.
A little above 50%.
Well, that sounds like more than 50%. Okay, anyway.
So, but from between 3,000 and 4,000 is where I've been doing it, because that made for
how many do we have?
3,578.
Okay, so that would put us at 57.8%. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, then let's move into the Cosmere Thing of the Week. All right. So Jordan, I think you're the one who found this one.
It was not me.
Yes, unfortunately, because I'm hosting this, I don't have the other thing up. This was, I think it was made by, I think the name was jgoux, G-O-U-X. This was posted on the Cosmere subreddit. This was they put together all the covers of the Stormlight books and realized it sort of made a visual Ketic.
It does.
It has a mirror thing going on.
Mm-hmm. It's symmetrical, kind of.
Yes, and somewhere in the comments, Brandon confirmed that Dalinar's supposed to be the knight on the far left.
Oh,
so he
really?
gets both.
Yeah, and so the idea being one, like, even though it doesn't represent him well because of the red, it's more symbolic that it's red at the start with the Everstorm,
Yeah.
or not the High Storm taking over the skies, whereas the final one is him without the armor wearing his blue against the Everstorm, which is red.
There we go.
And then, there's obvious, you just look at it. This thing is so well blended. I love how it's blended.
Yeah.
I could have sworn that he said multiple times that the knight at the beginning was sort of an unnamed knight, just a
well, there's two knights on there. There's one who's like really small and really far away, and then there's the one that's closer in the foreground.
Right, but the really small one, a lot of people have speculated is Eshonai, but I thought he'd said very specifically.
It was somewhere in the thread. I had to go, and that's why I now wish I had opened it in multiple places. But I can't.
He may have retconned it to that, but I'm fairly certain he said like it's not anyone in particular.
That's what I thought, remembering. But I mean,
still,
we don't see the face. So.
The blend job on this is just so good.
Oh yeah, it's very well done. So very cool. All right, well, let's move into Sanderson news. First off, at FanX, when recording, Brandon pulled the, "Oh, hi, I didn't see you there." He's sitting there like looking at a book. I was just like, "Oh, Brandon, come on, you're having fun." Let's see. His non-Cosmere novella has a title now. It is called Moment Zero, and it is 100% complete.
Bye-bye.
The revision itself is at 50%. Also, he used Fire Emblem Victory music behind the 100%, and it kind of made me giggle.
Oh, nice.
It may even have been the Smash Brothers arrangement of the Fire Emblem Victory music. So,
oh
man. Anyway, apparently his short work Snapshot. I'm not sure if you've read, either of y'all have read this one. I have not read
it. No.
It's very, very short, very quick to read.
A snap, if you will.
He mentioned that it has had nice movement as a television show that he can't announce just yet, but hopefully he will be able to very, very soon. That could be
cool.
Kind of interesting. So who knows? But that collection that Moment Zero is going to be a part of, the collection of non-Cosmere short fiction, that is planned to be the big release for Nexus next year.
Oh,
because remember we're gonna have a bit of a Cosmere drought for a little while as Brandon works on Ghost Bloods and then
White Sand and
then all that other stuff. So, but yeah, because Ghost Bloods, he's writing all 3 books in the Mistborn Era 3 and then releasing it. So it's going to be a gap.
It's really unfair of him because he just hasn't released that much content recently.
Yeah, honestly, he's slacking. Let's see, Lightfall, which is the new Skyward Legacy stuff that Jancy's doing, is at 47%. Now Brandon made a really interesting announcement this year. So he and his crew are not fans of Black Friday for understandable reasons, because Black Friday often requires people to work during what should be a holiday. But also it doesn't give his team much time to ship things before Christmas and holidays,
and it's just jam-packed
other
crazy
stuff.
Yeah.
And so he's what he's done is they're creating their own beginning of the sale season, and it's starting on October 29th, which is Light Day. Light Day being a Rosharan holiday, which is when they see the sun in the middle of
the weeping, right?
Yeah. And so So that will be starting October 29th. He said everything launching will be available on that day, which should give you plenty of time to order it, get it shipped in time. And then he said he's not supposed to say this, but maybe wait until October 29th to buy things from the shop. That's the kind of thing that gets him in trouble with his team, but also it's who Brandon is.
It's endearing still.
It's also when you're the boss, you get to do stuff like that.
Exactly.
What are they going to do? Just shake their hands at you?
Can't fire him.
No.
As mentioned earlier, the most boring book ever is now out. The art is gorgeous.
It's super cute too.
It's adorable, but the art is stunning. Kazu's done an amazing job.
Pretty, yeah.
And then also Brandon has an interview with Kazu on their Dragonsteel blog. So definitely check that out. And like we said, Brandon was at FanX. Amy was there as well, and I saw him.
And the nice thing was the Star Wars booth was like right behind the Dragonsteel booth, so like I would see them occasionally. The only problem was that I did not go to his panel because I was a biker scout all Saturday, like the whole day, aside from when I was getting the signing done. So I didn't make it.
Were biker scouts not allowed?
No, I just was busy, and I just didn't. I was in the groove and in the zone, and so I just didn't go to his panel, and I felt dumb because people were like, "Did you go to it?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't." And I didn't do the quest either. I knew one of the things that somebody said they needed to do was a picture of you sitting. So I did that, but then I never bothered to get the rest of the quest stuff.
Quest?
You mean so Brandon did a con game called The Most Boring Quest Ever.
So if somebody else knows what else was on the quest, let us know, because I did not end up getting it because I was too busy Star Warsing.
Yep.
So
Brandon also announced some new merch that's coming. There's a Bridge 4 hat with a flat brimmed cap that I hate because I'm sorry, I'm on the cusp of Gen X, and it rankles me. It has rankled me for over a decade.
And even Sanderson said that he's like, I want them to be curved. He's like, that's what I'm used to. And like, yeah, that
can't you curve it?
No, I think they're stiff enough that you break it kind of to really do that.
It makes me angry.
Well, that's an issue.
So,
yeah.
It's my absolute least favorite style of hat. They also have, speaking of hats, they also have Bridge 4 tattoo beanies. So it's a beanie with the Bridge 4 tattoo. Actually the logo that Jordan has on his shirt right now.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And then they also have a series of Colin family pins.
Here we go. There's that one. If you can see it from the glare.
Nope, not even a little bit.
I'm sorry. We'll have to have pictures up later, but I have all the pins. I got those. So.
And you can also see them on the Dragonsteel website.
Anyway, but I physically have them, so that's cool. So there we go.
Very cool.
I was going to show them off,
and
but
then
the glare.
There's a map puzzle of the Mistborn Final Empire map, which is one of the first projects that Brandon and Isaac worked on together. So that's pretty neat.
It's pretty cool.
And then the Mistborn deck building game is coming out October 21st. It's already sold out.
It sold out really fast, apparently. I don't even try to look for it.
I did pre-order it. I am very excited to get my copy because I have been looking forward to this one for a very, very, very long time.
I don't know why everyone is so surprised when Brandon's stuff sells out really quick.
Yeah,
I'm not.
It's like this is a trend, people.
Yep. And also the Wind and Truth bundle also went up for sale on the Dragonsteel website. It's already sold out. It's sold out like in an hour. So,
but it doesn't get. I'm guessing that it doesn't get delivered until like after
when the book is released.
Yeah.
So, and that does include like all of the con packet bonus deluxe packet goodies as well.
Yeah.
Just they're requiring that to get your signed numbered copies now, just because there's so much demand for them. Then this coming week, Brandon is off. So we are either not going to get a weekly update this week or somebody else will be filling in.
We'll see.
So I'm voting for Kara because I want to see Kara do a weekly update.
I don't know if we'll be able to handle the energy.
Like, I think Kara is Tower Light. She is generates energy around her.
She was fun. I said hi to her for a second at the store, so that was fun.
And she was probably going 1,000 miles an hour.
She
So
was conferring. She was doing stuff. She was busy.
Okay, so let's move on to the main discussion, what everybody is here for, and some people have probably skipped over just to get to.
All the chatter, yeah.
Okay, we have got 5 chapters. So let's start off with the continuation of the Wind and Truth, or the fourth parable of the Way of Kings, which is our epigrams. So remember, Noadon had come across a family of people who were traveling and leaving. And so chapter 16, it says, they had left behind family and hereditary home, something many would find unconscionable. What I learned from their glyphs scribbled in dust trembled my soul. It was because of me and the stories they'd heard of my teachings that they had left. They'd gone to seek a land some told them was mythical, a land where the king was a holy man and was concerned with the plight of the farmer beyond the appropriation of taxes. I let them pass with 2 lies.
That last line just makes me go, what are the lies? I don't know that we're going to get them, but I want to know.
It's a very wit-like line. It's the kind of line that he would use in one of his stories.
Yeah.
What if it is wit?
You think Noadon is wit?
No, but what if it is?
Probably not. But yeah, it's just I'm very intrigued to see where this,
because we still don't know who the other person is that was doing the Wind and Truth, Knights of Wind and Truth.
That's a whole
other
book.
Thing, yeah.
That's a whole other book.
I know.
That is so yesterday. Because I was day one. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So let's move into the actual story, though. So after all of the thirsty chapters, Shallan has finished her shower and she's now conferring with the unseen court. She's got Red and Gaz. Is it just Red and Gaz?
They're the ones who were the planters on the one area, and then she runs in, and then there's somebody else that comes in after.
There was
Shab joins later. I know.
Yeah, Shab joins later.
Yeah.
There was someone who was new to the court who was trying to remember who she was.
Hold on, I'll see if I can find it.
I don't recall.
I keep talking. I'll look.
I do love Gaz being like, he went and became heroic just to spite me or something. Talking about Kaladin.
Oh, he's grumping about it, and I think somebody, I can't remember if it's Shallan or somebody else, prods him and's like, well, you're always talking about it, and he's like, I'm not gonna think about that right now because I don't know. I'll talk about that later because then I'll progress and just. He's like, I don't want it right now.
So let's talk about your gambling problems instead.
Which I'm sure he loved.
Oh yes.
Darcira.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But she's the one who's following, I think. And Stargyle.
Well, and Stargyle is Steve Argyle, so.
Yeah.
No, but
clearly a Lightweaver.
Yeah.
No, but I just I liked this scene, Shallan actually, dealing with the court.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Especially given the comment from one of her people later on who's like, what happened on your trip because you've changed? And she's like, I found some stuff that I'd lost. And
some things,
but that's that happens later, but it's fitting.
Now that is
the experiment as well with the speaking of like things that had changed, experimenting with her armor.
Yeah.
That was a great moment because they're just like, well, because they had seen Kaladin and he had been Iron Manning his armor to all these other people.
So they're like, can we do it? Do it to us. Do it to us.
And so she tries it with, is it Red?
Yeah, I think it's Red.
And he's just fully locked up. Like, well, because it takes her a second to explain to her armor sprin what she's looking for, and they're trying so hard.
You're doing their
they really, really want to help, but they just don't quite
work that
get
way.
what she's talking about.
Yeah.
I also like that her armor are basically just Pokemon because all they can say is Shallan.
I know. And they're so cute. They're like, Shallan, Shallan, Shallan. And that would great. I'm not gonna lie. That would be it's like mom, hearing mom all the time. Mom, 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 mom.
Amy.
Yeah.
But no, it's I do enjoy the experimentation and the just sort of, okay, this is new to everyone. How do we do this?
Yeah.
Well, and it goes well because the idea of the creation spren imitate,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the wind spren move. And so moving from person to person makes sense to wind spren.
Yeah.
But the creation spren, they're trying to figure out exactly what it is they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the wind kind of thinks of for itself, and it goes off and does whatever. But creativity and that kind of thing, that's an internal aspect.
Yeah. And I feel like we got, I don't know if it was in here or if it was a comment from Brandon or somewhere, that there was a soft confirmation that only, as far as we know, only the Windrunner armor can be handed off to other people.
And that was kind of speculated, and I think even asked in a word of Brandon. Like,
is that what it was?
Back when when Rhythm of War came out.
Okay. Because yeah. But now we're seeing it in book that it's doesn't work quite the same.
Although, the rules that Brandon has set for Knights Radiant tend to be kind of bendy.
Yeah.
So
love that as a word.
Bendy.
But yeah, we also got the illustration that Shallan did of her own shard plate, which is kind of cool because she's been doing illustrations of shard plate since book 2.
Yeah,
I hadn't made that connection. I like that.
And so for her to actually be able to do her own shard plate, that's kind of neat. And I was gonna say, but how would she know what it looks like because she's inside of it? But Red wore it, so she can.
Well, even more than that, I think there was, when she put it on, she formed it in her head. She told the creation spren what she wanted it to look like. So I think it might be internalized as well as seeing Red wearing it, because I think it looked different when Red was wearing it than when she has it.
So I just had a thought. Do we see Shallan draw much, if anything at all, that she hasn't seen?
She has extrapolated. Like she's taken people
Veil is an exception, I guess. So
yeah, but I mean, we've seen her like draw people and then like elevate them in the drawing,
right?
Different stuff. But I think most things we've seen, she has seen. Though I think
like a lot of it has been based on her taking a memory.
Yeah, though I feel like when she was doing the crazy going, and like drawing all those things at Thalen Field, I feel like some of those might have been original.
Okay.
But I don't 100% know because it's been a minute since I've read that.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing that I love about it is just her drawing is just, she's trying to figure out how to add a cape.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. She's like, how Adolin would really like that. How would I add a cape?
For Adolin, because Adolin,
her very
Adolin
fashionable husband. Yes. And it would look very dashing.
Very cool. All right. Well, and then also in this chapter, Dalinar has a conversation with cultivation.
Yeah. That's
who was not specific
about anything, but that's how she rolls.
Well, and the Stormfather's just like, I can't tell you more. No, just there are limits to what I can tell you. The timing isn't right.
The thing that I like about it, though, just showing his own growth, is where he's like, I need to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas before there would have been no negotiation.
Yeah.
And even the sibling doesn't like it.
And we also had, there's confirmation in kind of the push that, I mean, a lot of people have theorized that Honor's going to get picked up again and become a new shard, like someone's going to come. And this kind of conversation makes it very much feel like, yeah, that's getting pushed even
that's
there.
Definitely getting set up.
Mm-hmm.
There's some foreshadowing for something like that happening.
Yeah.
I do have a minor complaint. It's just another moment of Brandon's voice coming through where and so the character sounds more like Brandon than they sound like the character, which is Dalinar's pardon, he said, but that's a load of crim. If you give me the answers, I absolutely promise to respect them. And I'm just like, that doesn't sound Dalinar to me. That sounds Brandon being a little bit snarky.
Because I didn't get that. I didn't get that tone from.
I don't know. I get
it a lot more with Wit.
Yeah, with Wit, I could see it more, but like I didn't. It felt more earnest when Dalinar was saying it.
It just feels like it's bleeding through a little bit more in this book. So there was another one that came.
I just don't see it on that.
There was another one that came in today's chapter that kind of stood out to me. I can't remember what it was, but yeah.
But no, the other thing I love, because what I love is when Odium shows up anywhere, he announces his presence with authority. And race anyway. Yeah. It's loud, it's bombastic. Whereas she showed up as just a random dark eye.
Makabaki lady who's just like, hey. And then strolls off.
I like that the guard's like, whoa, who are you to talk to? And he's like, no.
She gets a pass.
I know who this is, and
he's like, give me a minute. I know this is tickling that little spot in the back of my head that's like, you know this face, you know her.
Yeah.
It's interesting that she shows up in a way that the guard will see her, you know.
But it's also interesting that the Stormfather he's thrown off because she is behaving differently herself.
Yeah. Well, I actually think it's important that the guard sees her, because again, this is cultivation. This is the person who's been moving chess pieces, because that guard ends up going on the lift with Adolin. And so it makes me think there's something about it that she's trying to affect Adolin with that somehow.
Well, yeah, and it was interesting also that guard was a failed windrunner.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, Adolin definitely needs something to affect him a little bit right now. He's going through a rough patch internally.
He needs a hug. He needs a hug and so much forced family counseling. Oh my goodness.
He got a hug in the last chapter.
Okay, well, still he
got more than a hug in the last
chapter. He got
chapter.
more than a hug in the last chapter.
He needs a hug from his dad. That's what he needs.
Okay.
I love kind of line, and it's like, deal with it? No, they'll do the proper thing and let it fester.
I know. Oh my goodness, that was so painful. I was like, oh, just no, come on. Just...
No, I see that, and I'm just like, he gets me.
We keep jumping around, but that's okay.
That's okay. But yeah, so stuff is happening. All right, so the next chapter, A Tough Kind of Love. First off, the puns are getting worse.
Yeah.
Shallan's jokes are getting worse, and she needs an intervention, and soon. But anyway. Let's see what that's right. So Adolin goes to the meeting. We've kind of got his perspective. Sorry, what are you?
I did. I'm just scrolling through real fast, and I'd forgotten how much Adolin and Yanagawan.
Yanagan.
Yes, him. They get along because he holds the elevator for him. He's like, no, we're gonna hold the elevator for him, Adolin, and the guard to get in, and just
actually wait.
They get along.
This goes back to the cultivation thing. If she hadn't done that with Kolot, he might not have been on they might not have held the lift for Adolin. Because Adolin might have been, because Adolin slowed down to talk to Kolot.
Yeah,
Jordan is sliding doorsing this whole thing.
Oh no, that's
cultivation is.
Yeah, that's a fun movie.
Because look, I'm just saying.
Butterfly affecting.
Yeah.
No, there's a movie called Sliding Doors too.
That's what I was talking about.
What leads to, obviously this is going forward, but Yanagan starts asking specifically for Adolin.
He's like, no, I know he will do a good job. And it's like, yep.
I also just like seeing a much more proactive Yanagan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of stepping outside of him.
And
like he's getting a little bit more used to the role, and he's also hanging out with a lot of the other monarchs, and he's pushing a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit.
And I mean, even that chapter where it was last time where he was like he was totally asleep, and you can tell that he understands the role, he knows what he's supposed to do, but he wants to do more, and you can just see him itching to just push more for that. Well,
and you can see the people that he has associated with and admired, because first we see him with Lift, who she's gonna do whatever the heck she wants.
She's gonna push, yeah.
He sees, like, I'm sensing a bit of a kid brother energy towards Adolin.
Oh yeah, yeah, and like, and there's even a line from Adolin where it's like, this kid needs a good sword lesson, just like.
Well, and Yana, because part of it is Adolin is actually just treating him like him rather than the Emperor. Dealing with Adolin, right? But dealing with Adolin, he's getting something that he's been missing for the past several books. Because ever since he was made Emperor, he is in a role that he is expected to fill, and Adolin is kind of giving him a little bit of Gox back.
Yeah. So I just liked seeing the interactions between them, because I'd forgotten how well they got along, and I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah. No, like I said, Adolin's having a rough patch.
Oh yeah.
Not where Dalinar is involved, and he's kind of internalizing some toxicity because of that. But when it comes to dealing with, when it comes to dealing with Renarin and now Gox, he's doing better, and
he's communicating well with Shallan too. Like they're being very good. I like that. It makes me happy.
Well, and it's not forbidden anymore. In fact, it's quite encouraged.
I was wondering if you're going to bring that up. Oh my goodness, that line.
I did think that was kind of funny.
Oh man, the callback. Yeah,
well, but that's the thing. You can't have the no mating thing, and then they get married and not
have some comment on
it. I want his commentary on it. I want to see what he thinks about it.
I love that she says, "Don't say it," and he knows exactly what she's talking about.
Because I'm sure he said it before, and she's like, "Did you have to?"
There is no question about it at this point.
Well, of course he was. He was the chaperone.
But at least in that case, they don't have Maya spying on them too. Whereas that's got to be interesting with Yasna and Wit. Oh man, that whole other thing. Anyway, family friendly. Let's go on.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, moving on to Shallan though. During this chapter, she and her group are kind of keeping an eye out for the Ghost Bloods. Just as they're, as everybody's gathering for the Council of Monarchs and all.
Yeah. And they're going through the sketches, and she's like looking through them, and then she has that conversation with herself in her head where she's like, all of my mentors I end up facing off against, and that just feels rough. At least she hasn't butted heads with Yasna this quite the same way, because she's got one that hasn't been a mentor that she's killed.
It's interesting to see how she is interacting with Vale now, because it's very, very much the same as what it was in the previous one, but it's slightly different. And so it's just it's hard to figure out kind of what happened when she reabsorbed.
It feels like she's kind of a conscience or something. Like it almost feels more like that compared to being that separate person. Not that she isn't her own thing still, kind of, but it feels more like that compared to being in the forefront like she used to be.
Yeah.
So
I think Brandon's also just being very careful with, because she's been talked about so much with the DID community. And like he said explicitly, this is like DID, but different.
It's magic DID. So it's not going to be the same as the real stuff.
But I think he's being very, very, very careful just to not stray too far from what he's
been told,
learned by talking to, been told by talking to.
Yeah, because that's a hard thing to do when you have expressly said it's not this, but people have sort of imprinted onto it.
Well, and the thing is, in book 4, he kind of leaned a bit harder into it being that, but then towards the end of it, he did something that is very, very controversial when it comes to discussing DID, which is the having her reabsorb a persona.
So that's why I think it's important to remember it's magic DID. So so you try not to take it the wrong way. If you do have
it's not a 1-to-1 correlation.
Yeah.
So, but it's been very interesting seeing how the interactions with Vale kind of continue, but they're not. But yeah,
they're more in the background, kind of.
All right. Well, before we move on to chapter 18, it's probably a good time for a break. What do y'all think?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So let's go ahead and take a break, and we will see y'all in just a few minutes. And we're back. So let's move on to chapter 18, an exception to the rules. So this is the Council of Monarchs, where all of the monarchs are gathered together and basically trying to figure out what's happening right now, because things are going goofy. I'm trying to remember, who called this council? Was it Wit, or was it?
No, it was Adolin.
Because
they
saw the army coming.
He inspired them to have the meeting. I don't remember who.
Yes. He got to Azmir, and he's like, okay, we gotta do something.
We gotta talk because things are up. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, this is because I'm having 2 weeks between 2 and 3 chapters. I am having trouble holding on to everything. Not 2 weeks, 1 week, but still,
it's a lot. And this was one that, like, my kids were making noise in the background, and I was like, I gotta leave the room because I can't focus enough.
Yeah,
because there's so much going on.
Yeah. And then Wit kind of figures out that something has happened. It's when he just sort of cries out like, "I'm an idiot," or "I'm
shenanigans."
Shenanigans, exactly.
Yeah, and I love how they're like, "How do you know this?" And he just holds up the bone, like, obviously it's this
bone.
Come on.
Well, and the thing is, the bone has it's similar to the one. No. I'm thinking something else, because I was thinking of the bone white branch that what's his name had. Oh my gosh, the guy who ate an orb, and he doomed Kaladin's life, sent him to slavery. Starts with an A.
Oh, Amaram.
I kept wanting to say Ashravan. I'm like, isn't that from Cell?
Hindi.
No, Ashravan is the name of the emperor in the Emperor's Soul, if I remember right.
Oh, okay.
But I was like, no, not Ashravan, Amaram.
I don't remember him having that, but that's okay.
No, it was one of the things that Shallan saw in his collection when she was going in to copy the map.
Oh,
because there were a lot of different Cosmere things, and there's a bone white branch which people have figured out has to do with Yolen.
Okay,
and
so it may or may not have been.
And that. So, but this is an actual bone, so I don't know that it's connected to that. But that was the first thing that came to mind. But
that's right. I forgot about his collection. You're right.
But yeah, so he's basically saying,
I talked to Frost.
What happened is he found loopholes, and he realized this is not something that Race could have come up with, because Race was not clever. He was devious, but he wasn't clever.
And there was also the fact of what started it even before was he's like, Race would not have let me end the conversation without him feeling like he was superior versus me.
Right. And
he's like, something doesn't jive with that. And it all built from that.
Yes, sorry about that.
Was it
Kevin in chat said it was in Raise's collection. You're right. Yeah, it was Raise's collection.
Amaram had stuff though.
Amaram had flutes. Amaram had a bunch of flutes.
That's right, he had flutes.
Yeah, that's my mistake.
Too many bad guys.
But who like to collect things.
Too many bad guy collectors. Yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, so this is where Wit kind of goes back. He starts conferring with a draconic friend who he later refers to as she, which means not Frost.
Well, but he says Frost.
But who is she that he's talking about in chapter 20?
Is he
talking about cultivation then?
He was talking about Frost to start.
Yes, he talked about Frost to start, but then Let me see if I can
'Cause
find
he
Did
it.
he
had-
say
I thought he said-
draconic for the second person?
Says, yes, I asked my draconic friend and got a negative response. How to explain this? Wait. Where was it?
Because I could have sworn he said that it was. He said I would talk to
Here it
Frost
is.
and Frost helped me
He
whip
says-
through it.
Yeah, he says, I will speak to my friend. I don't think there's
that's
anything
right.
else, but if there is, I will find it. Honestly, most of what she said was complimentary. Talking about a friend that he had look at the contract.
Then maybe he was talking to multiple
Well,
dragons.
well, there was the comment Kevin saying Frost's cousin or sister,
Okay.
because I think he mentions Frost and then he also says she. So it's
Right. So he did mention, yeah, I thought he was, but what I'm saying is there's someone other than Frost as part of this discussion.
and I'd forgotten that there were two, but I just remember he said Frost. I remembered that.
But yeah, like, because this person read through the contract and was very complimentary, other than this one little loophole,
It was
which
there.
Race promised not to exploit loopholes, but
Because Race can't exploit loopholes.
Because he had agreed not to do it.
Well, and he's too entrenched in the power.
Yeah.
Well,
Versus this other guy is not.
Well, and this other guy isn't the one who made the promise.
So he can,
because this promise isn't a contract that was binding to Odium.
It was an addendum.
It was just
yeah.
It was sort of a promise between quote friends, acquaintances.
Yeah.
Just sort of, I promise I won't do it.
A gentlemanly promise.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, in all seriousness, like the relationship between Race and Dalinar and Taravangian and Dalinar, it is both a very it's kind of a friendly relationship, at least for one party.
It's very enemy mine.
Yeah, it makes me think of like oh goodness, Sherlock and what's his name, Moriarty, that he's always kind of like facing off with.
Yes,
that same vibe.
Sort of a friendly rival. What's the word that the phrase that Simon Sinek's a worthy adversary? Yeah.
Yeah. With Taravangian, it's at least like they both seem to regret that they have to be on sides.
Yes.
That they can't see eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they'd like to work together, but they're just too much at odds with one another's morals.
It's very Suikoden too, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, and so it's just they find the loophole though that if, according to Alethi law, if Race or if Odium takes the capitals, because the agreement is basically everything freezes, all the territory that's been taken freezes after the contest of champions.
Mm-hmm.
And according to Alethi law, if they take the capital, that's the entire country.
Yep.
Which, that is a heck of a loophole.
Yeah. And what I do remember he was saying that, like, he's like, oh, but Alethi law is like all over the place and crazy. And, I hope the Aesir don't look through it. They're like, don't worry. We already did that. And it's bad.
We already hate it.
We already hate it.
Thanks. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this is like, so suddenly they realize there is a lot of urgency because there are 3 strike forces on their way to the capitals, basically trying to take everything and take the entire civilization.
What would be left would be like Urithiru, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they can't attack Urithiru at this point because Sibling's awake and not happy.
The sibling like does a show of power, like, nah, they're not touching me.
I think, and the sibling I think is an idiot. I think the Skybreakers and the Dustbringers are going to come straight for Urithiru.
It's not a bad. I hadn't even thought about that. I'm an idiot.
That's true. I think
like they keep saying like, oh, you guys can do things that the
because
the
they're gonna
past
pull.
periods
They're gonna pull all the troops out, and
Now,
no.
the Dustbringers as an order aren't on
they're
the
not
other
that
side, are they?
numerous. Well,
Yeah,
But
we
they're
don't.
also
we know there's only one in all of Urithiru.
And
True.
but I do remember there were comments from Brandon that we were gonna see more Dustbringers in this one, and that makes me
yes,
nervous now.
That's a
Oh
good
man,
point.
no, I don't like it.
that's a very good point. But yeah, the Skybreakers absolutely.
Yeah,
But we know
to
they're-
me it looks too obvious. And that's the thing is they can operate the Oath Gates as well.
Yeah.
And I just think they're overlooking. They think too much about.
Well-
We control the Radiance. It's like you don't though.
You got two orders that are
Operating the Oath Gates at this point is less of a an assumption, just because the Oath Gate sprint are
letting them
also
through. Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of goofy. Not goofy, but they're unreliable at this point.
Yeah.
They can see now.
Kevin in chat asks, would the sibling be able to pull the power from the knights as well? I don't know that they would, because they're just emanating tower light,
yeah.
which the Radiants can use.
I do wonder if Venli would be able to use tower light, since she's a Radiant.
She can use Stormlight and Tower Light, or Stormlight and Void Light. So I think she would be able to use.
So she would be able to. She's one of the few, and I mean that means Relaine would be fine too, because Relaine was fine there.
Well, again, they're Radiants.
Well, yes. So that's why I'm just. Anyway, so
Yeah.
there's all these exceptions that the sibling isn't thinking. Not that they are enemies at this point either, though. So.
No, but it's just one of those things. I think, but to me, it just they've put, especially studying how Brandon writes things. They've put so much work into being like, nope, everything's fine here. It's gonna be great. And it's just like your overconfidence is your weakness.
And I'm like, no. I hadn't thought about it too hard yet, but yeah, that
your
makes
faith
me
in
nervous.
your sprint
again.
is yours.
Nice.
This book is giving me anxiety now. Dang it.
It's okay. It's not like we're only like 1/10 of the way through it.
Yep. We also have some interactions between Shallan and her light weavers. We find out that Shab is a hypochondriac.
I know. And that is such a sweet conversation towards the end of it when Shallan opens up to him.
It kind of reminded me, I'm not trying to make light of it, but it actually reminded me of Bob Wiley from What About Bob? At the very, very beginning of the movie, he talks about, if I fake it, it means I don't have it.
Oh, really?
And so that's when he starts spewing swear words, because that means he doesn't actually have Tourette's syndrome. But it just, I don't know. So some of the ways that Shab was talking about, it kind of brought that to mind. It was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't made that connection, but yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I haven't seen that movie in ages, but yeah, that's.
Oh, it's such a good one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
all
so
I know is I
Shab
always
is
think of
newish.
it whenever anyone mentions New Hampshire.
Shab also has a very, very, very strong Cockney accent, it sounds like.
Yeah. Oi was watching the Atrium region.
Mhm.
Like you said,
Because I only listened to the books usually when I was reading this.
How did it sound?
I was no joke. He says "oi," and so, but the thing is, because I saw it spelled for the first time, I was seriously being like, "Wait, who's oi?"
Instead of I got it,
because it's capitalized because it's I, and so I'm sitting here like, I don't remember this character. Who is this? And then I finally put 2 and 2 together.
See, I grew up reading the Redwall books, and the moles actually speak with this strong accent.
I don't remember if I
was talking about it.
Yeah. That's why I think I like reading it physically the first time, just because if I do audio the first time, I lose so much info. I just don't retain it.
The same thing happened after Way of Kings when I went and looked at TV tropes afterwards, and I couldn't figure out who this Jasna person was.
Who's Jasna?
I remember that
because I just assumed her name was spelled with a Y.
Because that's how.
And when I finally put it together, I was like, oh. Okay.
Because I thought,
I now see where we are.
yeah,
But,
when I saw her name, I thought it was Jasna too, because I was reading it.
But so I'm curious, in the audiobook, how does Shab talk? Like, what sort of accent is?
It's a Cockney.
Okay, which is interesting because that's kind of similar to what he's doing for the Herdazians.
Yeah, he does it deeper.
He does like the deeper, more rural accent.
Yeah.
Got it.
What was kind of interesting is
Lopin talks more, I'd say like quick, whereas Shab, it's very drawn out.
Okay.
So
the drawl.
A little detail that I had kind of forgotten was when they were looking through the sketches and stuff, and they see the other people having the other Ghostbloods having the tattoo on their wrists, and I hadn't realized that they had to be on their wrists.
I thought they were supposed to be anywhere.
Yeah, but in the text here, Shallan rubs her wrist after looking at the drawing where she sees it, and she's like, where she'd refuse to get those same tattoos, and I'm kind of like,
I'm
thought they could get them anywhere.
I'm thinking that she's rubbing her wrist because that's where the tattoos she's looking at are. I guess I can see. Because I think they had said it needed to be somewhere visible on the body.
Yeah, because
somewhere that she could show it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm now thinking of Ghostbloods in the future, and I think they're just going to have RFID chips.
Or like full sleeve tattoos, and then it's just like hidden amongst the full sleeve.
It's in there somewhere. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Be the Yakuza.
But yeah, so Shab's an interesting character.
Yeah.
I'm interested to learn a little bit more.
And I just liked how Shallan was like talking to him and going, "No, it's okay. You don't have to go out and do the things." And she was like, "Let's look into this later so we can help you and not just go, well, just keep sucking it up, and
well, especially because she's like, Kaladin's kind of working on this whole therapy thing. Let's find someone who can help you out.
Who can help you out and talk to you, yeah.
So.
Oh, and then there was all of the stuff with the dirty picture that Gaz changed the thing too.
I forgot about that one. I forgot.
When they had the guards walking by and they're like, why are these like, because they're in disguise and they're like, why are these street cleaners or whatever like all hanging out? And then Gaz makes it like shakes the paper and it's like it's a naked lady.
It's the perfect cover.
It is, and they're like, okay, yeah. And Shallan's like, what is this?
But it's just they see what's going on, roll their eyes, and keep walking.
Mm-hmm. And he invites her to come to the next drawing session, and she's like, no. I need to work on my anatomy, yes, but I'm not doing that. Nope.
It is so weird seeing Gaz as a Lightweaver still.
And he's got two eyes, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's so different from the character. Now, that's another thing that I do find interesting. And we've talked a little bit about it, but just the fact that Gaz was able to heal his eye.
And I think it really comes down to how they internalized their injury. Like he always saw it as, this isn't who I am. This isn't who I am versus
there's something blocking my vision rather than I can just see out of this eye.
Yeah. And like, whereas Kaladin was like, I am a slave. I was a slave, and like he was stuck on that. And Rissyn has kind of internalized, I am is it paraplegic? Is that the right word for not having your
paraplegic means two, quadriplegic would be.
That's right. Because I'm like, I always think para is the quad one. And anyway, but she's just like, this is who I am now. And she's just internalized it so they can't heal it. And like same with Lopin, how he got his arm back. Because he's like, he made jokes about it, but he always saw it as, I'm missing it, but it's supposed to be there.
Well, he would refer to the fact that he'd say like, I'm making a rude gesture at you right now.
Yeah. So he
like my arm somewhere is making the rude gesture. So he just thought of it like the arm is still his. They were just attached for the moment.
Yeah. And he would just, he internalized it differently. So that's how I kind of picture. And it seems like he's getting used to having both his eyes back, because Shallan makes a comment like that he's not trying to check his blind spot and all these other things as much. He's getting used to it and feeling better about it.
Well, I like that was a tell for a long time.
That he had to work on it.
It's something I get. Something, because like I've mentioned before, this eye is very bad. Like and so I could just sort of picture, having it's been like this for over 10 years. It would be very, very strange, wonderful, but strange to get back to. And it would take some getting used to again.
Mm.
Well, especially like losing the peripheral.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly you have it. You'd feel like everything's always jumping into your blind spot, even though it's like, it's not even your blind spot. What are you doing?
Well, it's like you have two eyes like this. Imagine you got another one on this side of your head, or you were able to see from this side of your head as well. Like avoiding all of the, third eye squick, like just the ability to see from an additional spot. It would take some getting used to.
Yeah, your brain would have to rewire to understand that. And I mean, I've seen, images of what horses and cows and, other prey animals who do have their eyes on the side of the head can see. And it's a lot bigger range. Like they just are missing like right in front and right in the very back. And they got everything else.
Which is why you do not approach a horse from the back.
Yep. When I was taking horseback riding lessons, if I had to go around back the horse, I would either go super wide or I would run my hand along the horse so they could tell, oh, they're right there.
That's where she is.
Because you don't want to get kicked. Be very bad.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's move on to chapter 19. This is a big one because this is kind of something we've been waiting for since.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Since the end, honestly, since the end of book 4, because this is the kind of the actual beginning of getting into the meat of the big road trip.
Yeah, this one, there was a lot with Zeth. Like it felt mostly like a Zeth, and there was just Kaladin for little snippets, but it was mostly Zeth, and it was a lot more in his head.
It was, well, I mean, and this is technically supposed to be Zeth's book. Speaking of which, that's something I just realized, not just realized, but earlier today. We haven't gotten any flashbacks yet.
We haven't.
Of all, like we're 20 chapters in, we're in day 2, and we haven't gotten any flashbacks yet.
I wonder.
It makes me wonder if we're not.
No, I think we're getting them because Brandon's read one of them.
I think what we're going to get is
in the
preview chapters. So my thought is that we're probably going to get a whole lot more of them now that they're in Shinovar, and that it's going to be
very possible.
It's going to bring like all these memories, and he's like, I remember that field, I remember this, I remember that, and it's going to spark all these memories, and then we're going to see them. Well, so that's my guess.
That makes sense because a lot of times what the flashbacks do, they tied into the things in the chapters around them. So that makes sense. So but I found it very interesting that we're so deep and we still haven't.
Yeah, that's true. I had forgotten that. I was like, oh yeah, there's no flashback scenes yet. So, but I kind of want to.
Like Brandon shared one a few years ago, or a couple of years ago at Dragonsteel,
and that was a cute scene.
But that we haven't actually gotten any in the released chapters, the published, the fully edited and everything.
Well, and I like how he finally sees grass again.
Yes,
and he how he cries. Is that right?
He's home.
He's home.
That is something I understand very, very well. Like not to the degree that Zeth sees it, because he has trauma and other things tied up in it. But going home to Alabama, which is where I grew up and where my family still lives, because I live in Utah now, the climate is very different. And every time I go to Alabama and I see trees, I get emotional. Like people say, oh, they have trees in Utah. In Utah, we have tree. In Alabama, we have trees.
Coming from Washington, I very much understand. Mine are more conifers than what you probably have. But it's like you drive on the freeway and it's just like solid trees unless you take them out. And it's just green, so green. And I miss it all the time.
Yeah, the trees and the rain. It's something that I miss that we get in Alabama, but Utah's a desert.
It's not the same.
So it's just and so him coming home and seeing these plants, and it feels right to him. It feels natural.
Yeah, he sees the dandelion and he's all excited about the dandelion. And I'm like, oh, I hate those. But it's so meaningful to him.
But the thing is, a lot of people say I hate dandelions, but just remember back to when you were a kid.
Oh yeah.
And you gathered dandelions and you gave them to mom because these are beautiful flowers.
And they are pretty flowers. I just being the yard maintainer, I hate
Oh,
dandelions.
absolutely. I totally get that. Like a few years ago, I had a horrible outbreak of them in my front yard.
Yeah.
But it's just, there is something special. I mean, if you've been on a place where the plants retract, if
This is
anything
gonna be weird.
comes
Yeah.
near, and then you get back and it just feels calm
Mhm.
and just and full of life and a different kind of life, because there's just something special about grass.
Yeah.
And so
I think the biggest thing that I like about this is also just looking at it from Kaladin's perspective, where he's just like, I don't get it.
He's like, this is
What?
weird. He's like, where's the real plants? And it's like,
Well,
these are the real plants here.
not only where real plants is, what's wrong with your plants? Are they okay? Is this a sign that horrible things have come to Shinovar?
Yeah, and he's like,
And he's like,
how
"No,
are they
this
not
is-
all
this is
eaten? How are
normal."
yeah.
Well, it's
And
because he
he-
sees him crying and he's trying to get into his head and understand
Right.
him. But one, this is not a person whose mind is a safe place to
No.
be.
Though he does say that his shadow is getting less distant from him, so he is starting to heal, which is an improvement.
Yeah. But the other thing that's really interesting is seeing Kaladin's and Zeth's attitudes towards each other. Just because neither of them really understands the other. It seems like Kaladin's trying a bit more to understand Zeth, and Zeth is just like, no, he's wrong and he's stupid.
Well,
Yeah,
He's a stupid head.
Well, one, it makes a lot of sense given his order,
Yeah, it's a very, very rigid.
Yep. Very
and especially Zeth, who went to extremes to follow a code because nothing else made sense to him. This is someone who's always lived his life in black and white.
I mean, considering what we know of his father, there was only there was no gray, and it was you do this and you do this and you do this.
There's definitely a hint of OCD in Zeth.
But the other thing that it's interesting, he views, like, he was perfectly willing to die after the battle with Kaladin and just die because just of all the horrible things he did, and then Nail brought him back. He views what he's doing as a punishment, like to the point where he isn't allowed joy in his own mind.
Yeah, and his high spren doesn't help, like Kevin's saying, and they're like, they don't do that.
They're also they're the same way, where it's
very rigid.
This emotion, it's very unbecoming of you, type of thing.
Yeah,
and so looking at it from his point of view, where duty is a punishment, seeing what Kaladin's done and put down the spear, this is
a coward.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't even make sense to him.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, this is the assignment. It's over and it's done. This is our fate, the rest of our lives. And this is one of the things we know from the Gemstone archive, is that there's always been issues between the Skybreakers and the Windrunners.
And I also wonder with Zeth in particular that he needs to cling to the order and like the very precise things and not giving himself flexibility, because I think if he allows himself to feel more of the things, then he will have a big rush of all of the feelings that he's been ignoring, and he can't handle that.
He has a lot of rage first.
He's got a lot of pent up everything.
He's got some emotional constipation is what he's got.
And I think he sees Kaladin and goes, well, you're not following the same rigid things that I am, so what's wrong with you? Why this is how you function. And Kaladin's like, no, I'm learning to deal with things.
Especially because everything before putting down the spear has made sense to him with Kaladin.
Yeah.
He understood his pursuit of justice against Amaram. He understood, I will defend my men to my last breath.
Yeah.
and stand for what I want. Putting it down, that makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, look, he's going to go until he absolutely is dead. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
There's also an edge of, this is the guy who beat me, and he's behaving like a coward now.
Yeah. The other interesting thing is that he calls Dalinar Dalinar, but he calls Kaladin's son Lirin. Like, he doesn't give the same naming convention to Dalinar.
I don't know that he knows Dalinar's father's name.
I just feel it's I don't know. I wonder if it's just like a whole Dalinar is over me rank wise, and so he gets the name that he chose. That way versus Kaladin has to fit into the naming convention.
I don't think so, because he said Nail Sun God, and he definitely would put Nail above.
It might even be just a matter of, Nails. Because it might be a matter of, this is the person who I will use them as their own reference point, rather than because like Zeth became Zeth's son Villano, and then no longer Zeth's son Naturo, and now he's Zeth's son Honor. But each of them, it ties him to something. But for Zeth, Dalinar is the ideal that he is sworn to.
Mm-hmm.
He is that's a good point.
He's his own reference point.
Yeah, he's less of a person and more of a force. In the way
he's a bondsmith. He's kind of doing crazy stuff.
He's not just a bondsmith. He's the object of Zeth's third ideal.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that.
Oh, I like the cute comment from Nightblood too.
Yes, I was about to bring it up.
I love Nightblood.
You go ahead and say it.
Hey, just the whole thanks for asking.
He's like, Kaladin's like, you all right? And he's like, yeah, I'm great.
Well, it's a nice little moment. Hey, I'm still here.
Yeah, I love it. He's like, but I'm famously patient. It comes from being a sword. It's like, oh my goodness, you're so adorable. Oh, you make me happy.
He's still essentially the same sword that
our delightful little eldritch.
Yeah, I mean, I see it as, since he's the sword and he had so many constraints in his creation that he can only advance so far. Like, he's stuck at that point. Like, he can't progress.
Yeah. Well, and I always come back to it. One of my favorite lines in all the Cosmere is whenever Vivina fishes Nightblood out of the water. And it's like, and after Denth had just tossed him into the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I don't understand. I thought Vartrelides liked me. Because he just assumes everyone loves me.
Come on, I don't know what the problem is.
We're best friends.
But
yeah, just this look at Shinovar, I'm very intrigued to see how it progresses. So, and they've gotten there just at the they saw the rising sun is at their backs.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting used, like there's a full day to go, so there's a lot that can happen in this next section.
Yeah,
with them being in Shinovar, so I think we're going to start seeing a lot of them.
There's still the mystery of why was Shinovar completely stopped talking to everyone.
I have a feeling Ishar's doing
people
things
down.
Yeah,
they're shooting people down in the north.
Yeah, because the Windrunners have tried to go in and they've not been allowed in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think you're right. I think Ishar's definitely doing stuff.
The shenanigans.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that they haven't participated on either side of the war, because you'd think they'd take a side, but
I think they're too full of themselves to think that they warrant to join any side. They're their own side in their head.
I mean, they've been isolationist for centuries.
Long time.
Well, and it makes sense, just in the sense that these are people who believe that walking on stone is a sin.
Mm-hmm.
And yet that's what everybody else has to walk on, is only stone.
Well, and that's I can't remember which book it was. I want to say it was Words of Radiance, where Zeth started thinking about the fact that, we call them unhallowed, but how
Where else are they supposed to walk?
And then he realizes that these are dangerous thoughts. You start going down this path. You start justifying other things.
Mm-hmm.
It's very reminiscent of the movie. What is it? The Village.
Oh, with Shyamalan's one with like the yellow cloak and stuff.
Where it's like, we don't want you to leave this area. So what are we going to do? We're going to place superstitions
around everything.
So that you won't leave. Or the Truman Show, where they give him that fear of water and stick him on an island.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's just.
Well, and there's also just the fact that these are the descendants of everyone from Ashen. Mm-hmm. And so it's also like you see the seeds of why they do this, because this was the land that was given to them, and they weren't supposed to go beyond it. And we see what happened when they did. They nearly wiped out all the singers.
Yeah.
And it started the war. And so it's one of those things, you see how the agreements and how they got there led to the customs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting when you have a rule that leads to its own kind of degree of lore, to the point where the original rule is lost and it kind of becomes its own thing.
Yeah, the restrictions to help you keep the rule have become the new rule, and so it just gets more and more that way.
And so it's a rule for the rule's sake, rather than a rule for, this is the reason this rule was put in place.
Yeah. And I on a different note, I just really love like Syl and Kaladin trying to figure out why the plants are the way they are, and they're like, maybe they taste bad. Maybe that's why they're not getting eaten.
Well, and honestly, there are plants that have evolved to taste bad so that they don't get eaten. So.
And then we just develop the herbs more, so then they taste even more strongly of what we want.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, it actually makes perfect sense when you view the competitive flora and fauna, which, I mean, that line is really blurred on Roshar, of these plants. And it would make sense, like, why does this dead plant that isn't doing anything, how could it survive against a plant that moves and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And part of it is it's adapted to this environment. It's,
there's
dirt.
This is dirt versus all the rocks and everything else that they're used to grabbing onto, and so they just don't. And I figured that the Shin probably removed those plants if any did kind of wander over. I have a feeling they might.
If there was an invasive species.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, plus there's there's a mountain range in the way.
Yeah, so it'd be harder.
Well, and then on top of it, it's clear that the plants on the rest of Roshar, they're adapted to an environment with creme.
Mm-hmm.
And so without it, I doubt they'd survive. They're clearly getting some form of nutrient from it.
Yeah.
With creme and ridiculously heavy rainfall. Yeah.
Yep.
But I just love seeing how, because we've seen this entire book from everyone else's perspective, but now we're going to the place that's more like where we're from.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like,
and it feels alien.
And like you have Seth, who's like, oh my goodness, this is home. This, he's feeling all nostalgia, and Kaladin and Syl are like, what is going on with this? So they're like,
it with a stick,
and like almost stepping on it and being like, no, but what? It didn't jerk in. What is going? It's just. It's
also
weird.
Syl is continuing to manifest full size.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we find out that Highspren can choose if they tell their people their name or not, and and Zeth will not tell him that, and is not letting him use the surge of division or what? Yeah. Yep. He's like, no, you don't get to use that yet.
Now, did he? Remind me. Did he say that Nail had given him permission?
Yes, I think Nail had said, but the Highspren's like, nope, you don't get it yet.
It's like you need 2 keys to launch the nuclear device, and he's only got 1.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm just it's because we haven't seen much of the Highspren, and so I'm very intrigued to understand what it is they are.
Mm-hmm.
What it is they are, what it is they want, what drives
I'm getting the impression, looking at this, they are like, just as the honor sprint of the manifestation of the concept of honor, these might be the manifestation of the concept of rules.
Yeah.
Which would then
regulations.
Make sense. Yeah. Why that would. why they have so much in common, yet at the same time are so opposed to the Windrunners.
It feels very Bushido type
Yeah.
of just
Samurai
again
history.
the decision, the claim of you have no honor, or this is honor, and for them it's following these rules exactly.
Mhm.
While it's almost like letter of the law and the spirit of the law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could. Yeah, it's a good comparison. I like that. And the Windrunners have that flexibility that they can. I'm following by doing this thing that is technically outside the rules. I'm accomplishing the goal.
Right. Because like, what is the actual end goal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this should be interesting there. Then do you have anything more there? Can we move to 3 vital points of defense?
I was about ready to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So go ahead. You were going to say something?
Yeah. One, I love seeing the Stormfather and the sibling talking to each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
and I also love,
and in a way that both of their bondsmiths can hear them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I also just love the concept of there's like, wait, so it's not Odium's changed? It's like, okay, let's go check.
Okay, we're gonna check
I'm
that
sorry,
out.
what?
And
It's
yeah,
like,
the
yep.
Stormfather's like the rhythm is off or something like that. But I only noticed since I listened real close, to it.
Right.
It's very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
And
But he doesn't recognize who it is still.
Yeah, because I mean, they probably didn't deal with Taravangian enough to.
Well, and
to
even
know.
if they, were looking for it, I think it's the difference of like Taravangian changes it so slightly. All they know it's different.
But it's not that, yeah.
A mortal can't compare to the rhythm of a god.
Well, and that's the thing. The rhythm of Odium is so strong that the little deviation between a race and a Taravangian is not going to be noticeable unless you listen for it and you're like, oh, that's different.
No, I like seeing all the monarchs as they're trying to piece together what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with an alliance like this is when the chips are down, suddenly everyone kind of wants to look out for themselves.
Which is understandable. I mean,
yeah. Well, if you're Fen, your duty isn't to Azimir or to Roshar, your duty is to your people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
and I did like when the mink kind of concedes to Gox that he's like, yep, I can totally understand why you care about your country, and I get it. Kind of because Gox is sitting there going, please don't just ditch me, in my country.
Well, and he's also of the mind of, it's like, sorry, I was too focused on the actual
strategy,
literal strategy, and not about. There is an emotional aspect to this.
Mm-hmm. Because he's sitting there going, I did lose my country, and yeah, I understand.
It's the concept of it's like the concept of pure logic versus pure emotion. You can't do either, because if you do pure one, you're missing the other.
Yep.
Well, it's also, especially in ancient warfare, it's been said that a lot of battles were won on pure momentum. That the whole reason, like, it feels dumb to have your knights or your samurai wear these big, banners, or these bright capes and stuff. But the whole point is, this is the elite, follow them. And so as long as everyone keeps pushing forward, you emotionally are like, okay, keep going. But as soon as they fall, all these untrained soldiers, suddenly they're like, oh, all is lost, and they break.
There's also the aspect of like logistics were harder to communicate, so that makes it easier that you follow your flag, and but there is the whole emotional aspect of it too, that if there's a word, but it's gone. So
yeah, but you gotta make them feel like, yeah, we can do this. And so they're like, look, like, this is going to be a great defensible position. We don't need as many soldiers there. And it's like, Like, it's great to hear, but doesn't feel good.
To know
Yeah.
that, yeah.
I mean, and again, just those symbols that the battle is not over, that the battle is not lost, means the battle can still. I mean, like there are stories of battles that were won by someone sneaking in and switching the flags so that both sides thought, oh, the base has already been taken.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Well, I mean that's what the American national anthem is even based on. Is the explosions were going off. They looked up, the Star Spangled Banner, and the flag is still there because it hadn't been taken down. When the fort is taken, one of the first things they do is lower the enemy flag and raise their own to indicate we have control of this.
We've got this one, yeah.
It's where the war game Capture the Flag came from.
It makes sense.
Is just it's a symbol, it's a sign, an indication of this is who is in control here.
Yeah,
they put up their own colors. And so just like Jordan was saying, the indication of like there is a morale aspect to it and a momentum.
Morale. That was the word I was trying to think of, is it keeps up the morale.
Yeah.
Well, and then the other thing that I liked about it is just the concept of as they're sitting here, it's like, okay, how we need more help. What can we send? And they're trying to figure all that out.
They have very limited resources and a very limited ability to transport their troops from one point to another.
And they can't just up and say, okay, well, your country's expendable, so we got to focus on these two, because it's
Well, and they're suddenly with the time deadline in a very different situation than you would be normally. Like this is like a game of Risk, where suddenly you are on the final turn. And so you're willing to risk things you wouldn't normally be willing to risk. And Odium in particular is willing to risk things because he doesn't care about the lives that are underneath them. A lot of them are going to come back anyway. And two, if you believe, as Taravangian does, no, I'm going to be saving the universe here. There's no amount of death that isn't worth the sacrifice.
Well, and the other thing is that the contract is built with a timeless, with an immortal perspective. Yes, he'll be sealed away, but after he's sealed away, he can come back.
Yeah.
It's not a permanent end for him. It's effectively a permanent end for everyone else because they're going to die before anything changes. Yeah. But he won't. He'll still be around, and he can
trying
to do what he does.
No, it's just this is the deadline introduces a completely different game plan.
Yeah.
I like the way that they end up splitting things up because, again, it's not like they keep saying, well, what if we abandon Azamir and then retake it later? And they're just like, that's a big risk because once it's taken, there's no
if we
evidence
get it,
that we'll be able to take it back. And if we don't, and we'll have a deadline. If we don't take it back by day 10, it's gone.
It's gone. The whole country, and it's
all of them, all of the under,
and it's all of the other ones too. Yeah.
And so I like it though. What?
You were gonna say something?
I was going to say, and I like the way they kind of split up the forces. It reminds me of Return of the Jedi, where it's like we'll have a force that goes onto Endor to break down and we'll have a force that does this, and it's like, so this is the force we're sending in, and these are the commanders that we're sending with them. And I like that. For example, we can't send a lot of people to Azamir, but what if we send a smaller group of our best people?
Yep, because they like cover a smaller area.
Because they're hopefully only dealing with the influx on the Oathgate, and they have that big shield thing that Dalinar keeps saying is so great, and here's poor Gox going, but still.
They're hoping for kind of a 300 scenario where a few good soldiers can hold a small pass.
Yeah. But the fused are scary. So.
Yeah. Well,
but most of the fused will be at the Shattered Plains.
Yeah. That's true. Where they're going to send Sigil.
The fused and the Thunderclast.
And Sigil's like, that's going to be like, hey, I'm
Okay.
I'm not wanting to be this.
Well, you noticed his response. Like they told him, Sigil, you're going to lead her. And his response was, sir? And then he says, I need you to do this, 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 and this. He's like,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
And you know that there is an internal just
Freak out.
anguish going on as he's trying to figure out. But
I've gotta do this, yeah.
he's Sigil. He's a Windrunner. He understands Dalinar has commanded. We obey. Our job is to make it happen.
And it's us or it's nothing. And he's been listening to it, so he knows it's I'm it. Yeah.
Well, and he's grown closer to Dalinar. We've learned over this campaign because he's been protecting him, and they now share the fact that they're both men that can read, which is not the norm. And then on top of it, you have I love that Yesna's going back to Thalen's city.
Yeah, she's like, no, we're gonna save this one again.
Well, and Yesna kind of, she's got a bit of a she wants to prove herself, because she's in a very militaristic society that is very patriarchal, and she's just like, no, I'm going to show I can do this. And Dalinar and Navani, it seems like they can see that she's pushing a little bit harder than she needs to, but she's got a point. She can do this.
She's a powerhouse by herself.
Yes,
and
she
it's
absolutely
like,
is.
And it's like, okay,
but
it makes sense.
It's interesting because you're starting to see her actually, because now that she has the weight of the crown, she's starting to do things that Elhokar was doing, where you're pushing a bit to prove the legitimacy of your throne. Because the problem is, they're both the children of the guy, the one who brought everyone together, and you're having to prove to everyone else, like, yeah, I have that same force of personality.
Yeah, and I think
and neither of them also knew who he was.
Yeah,
they didn't know the jerk that we know.
Yeah,
and even if they did, it wouldn't change anything,
right?
And Yasna also has the added, I can't remember where the line was, but it was some commentary on the fact that Dalinar pushed things and people were just like, okay, cool. But she pushed it and people still pushed back. And so she's got that extra, like you were saying, Bill, about the patriarchy stuff. Like it's even way worse than current stuff. So, I mean.
Well, in addition to that, she's also very new to her position.
And she's the first queen they've had. And so she's got all these extra forces and stresses on her.
I think it's less of the patriarchy part that you're talking about, where it normally does pass from father to son. It's more she's a heretic. She's been pushed to the side of the royal court stuff, partially because of that, but also partially because she didn't play well with the other nobles, because she's very blunt and she doesn't while she's clever at playing their games, they don't like playing with her because she plays for keeps. Whereas everyone else is willing to play the game. She plays to win. And then on top
she
of
plays
it,
to win definitively.
Yeah. And she's not, I relate to her because she likes to win conversations and stuff like that. And like she has that internal thing. It's like Dalinar declared God dead and they allowed it. And it's like, you and Dalinar aren't the same person.
Which is also very interesting because that's what she calls Shallan out for.
Yeah.
It's like she's trying to be, she says the clever thing that comes out, and it's a flaw that she has herself that manifests in a very different way. I'd never really thought about that, but you're right. She wants to win the conversation in the same way that Shallan does, but she wins differently.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing I love that Navani, as her mother, recognizes this. And then later on in the conversation, when Adolin brings up all the Ghostblood stuff, she's like, that girl's been keeping secrets. And it's like, and she was trained by my daughter, so why am I surprised?
So she also does that, so not surprising.
Yep.
I just love Navani's over here like, why won't everyone just
communicate?
Speaking of Navani's internal frustrations, Dalinar and Adolin kind of have their whole thing building and coming to a head.
Like that.
It's making me more and more worried that one of them's gonna die.
Oh, I had the exact same thought.
I'm like, stop doing this. You're making me paranoid, man.
Like every time somebody says, "Okay, we'll talk about it later," I'm like, "But are you gonna be there later? I'm worried now. Don't do that.
Quit
to
tempting
me."
fate.
The only thing worse is if you'd said you were 2 weeks away from retirement.
Oh,
No, it's driving everyone nuts. But I love at the same time where they're over here like, okay, we'll help her with her war with a completely foreign force that we don't know anything about.
Yeah. If we find out in any time in the next several chapters that Shallan is expecting, Adolin's doomed.
Oh
no,
yeah.
no, 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 no. Mm-mm. Not okay with that. Nope. I need him to live.
I want him to live. I'm all for it, but
We're not speaking that into manifesting.
I have
Nope.
to. I'm not
Amy, the book's
manifesting
already-
anything.
The book's already written.
They're not going to change it.
anything.
Shh, no.
My understanding is he wrote this one in metal so that no one else can mess with it or something.
I'm just gonna say to the ether, no, not okay.
No, the ethers have no control over this.
I don't care.
Yeah.
This is more of an investiture thing.
Well, ethers are invested, right?
More of an Adonalsium thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I need them all to live except Todium. He could die.
But yeah, so Dalinar and Adolin kind of have their tension building, and there is some barbs thrown this time.
Oh, yeah. Adolin finally spat out a little. I mean, I think he probably has before, but this is the first time I think we've seen him actually verbalize it. Out loud.
It's one of those obnoxious situations where like somebody has one thing they can say that can end any conversation and they overuse it. It's just like, Dalinar's like, why don't we have sandwiches for lunch? You killed my mom. It's like, okay, fine, we can have spaghetti. Just
yeah, it's like you just hold that over them forever.
With soy sauce.
Oh shit.
Soy sauce.
No. But it's just one of those things. Adolin is still the revelation from that book is still so raw for him.
Yes.
Well, it's his mom.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's really interesting is that when he first heard the news, he didn't like it, but he was kind of okay with it. But it's festering.
And he's had time to think about it more because, I mean, he's had all this time traveling and all, his times kind of waiting around and stuff. And so it's had time to build up in his head more and think about it more and probably have more memories of his mom and sit there and go, and Dad killed her. And Dad killed her.
I don't like that. Chat just said the last time Adolin got like this, they got betrayed at the tower.
Oh, no, Kevin.
So
not okay. No.
But you're not wrong.
So here's the thing.
Kevin,
Taravangian is brilliant. And what he has set up is the perfect situation to get this alliance to crack on itself.
Yep.
And play the ends against the middle. And if there's anything, what the whole thing is, he killed Sadeas, and he did it because he felt it was for the good of the kingdom. He doesn't feel guilty for it. Adolin is someone who will sometimes do something to get the job done.
Do the wrong thing for the right reason.
Yeah, and let's say you set up a situation where you're Taravangian and you're like, okay, I can't win this way. So what if instead I make everything awful to the point where it's like, all right, I'll make a deal with you, Adolin. You be my champion if I let everyone else go. And if you're Adolin and you're being told, I will do this, and give everything else back, suddenly it's good. Like it's the perfect line of play.
I do not want the Black Thorn versus the Blonde Thorn.
No. I like Kevin's other comment where he says maybe Adolin starts losing an Aesir and gets saved by Maya. I like that option better than the one you're suggesting.
Speaking of Maya, did you notice it was interesting that Adolin is narrating what's going on to Maya?
Yeah.
and kind of
He's
sort
keeping
of
her informed.
Yeah, which is interesting because she's there, but he's like giving her context. It's very interesting the way he's communicating with her right now, because their relationship now is very different than it's ever been.
Yeah, they're their own special whatever this is.
Mhm.
And then we had that line earlier from Shalon where she was trying to see Testament manifesting physically, and she wasn't doing it like Pattern was, like on the wall and stuff. So it's just kind of to see the different things. Bye, Shimanchu.
But yeah,
Look, we all know it's only going to get worse. It ain't getting better anytime soon.
No, we haven't. Have we seen Lift really? I don't think that we have.
Nope, not yet.
not in this book.
Huh.
I'm very interested to see
And we
what
haven't.
she's been up to.
We haven't seen We haven't really seen Renarin either, have we?
Nope.
No, Renarin's it. No, we haven't seen Renarin.
The thing you got to remember: only one day has passed.
I know. There's so many characters by this point that it's like, wait, who, how, who, what? And then there's all of, like, we've seen Relaine a little bit, but not. Or is Relaine already gone? Shoot, now I don't remember.
No, because Relaine and Renarin are going to figure out what their powers are.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing because there's like, yeah, we could do this. And it's like, we don't even really know what we can do or what this means because we are in a weird situation.
Yeah.
Renarin was at the party saying goodbye to Kaladin.
Oh, that's true. Okay, that's right. Yep, Renarin was there.
Thank you. Yeah,
I was like, I could have sworn we'd seen him, but I couldn't remember. I mean, this book is only 20 chapters so far, and it's already a lot. So the whole book is.
I mean, this is the Sanderlanche of
the Sander
of the first section.
Yeah. So
the first arc.
Whew. It's a lot.
Indeed.
And if you've read A Memory of Light, you've seen Brandon's ultimate Sanderlanches get very, very intense.
No, I haven't made it past book 2 yet, so.
All right. Well, we better start wrapping up.
Indeed.
So, to our listeners, we love hearing from you. So keep sending in questions. Again, we've gone kind of long, so we're not going to be able to do one this time, but please keep sending them in. You can ask us about the Cosmere. You can drop us your ideas for topics you'd like us to discuss during the show. And while you're at it, we'd love to hear your feedback about how you think we're doing, as well as any interesting theories you might have about what's going on in the Cosmere. You can send all questions and suggestions in a brief, concise email to cosmerestudies@gmail.com, and hopefully we could read that as part of the show. You can also reach us at the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah 84097. Outside of the show, we have our own personal projects that we're each working on. So, Amy, why don't you lead us off and tell us what you've been?
So my Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Twitter is @CoincidenceCosp because my name is too long. My Instagram is @coincidence_cosplay. My TikTok is @coincidence_cosplay, and my website is www.coincidencecosplay.com. I have not been posting a whole lot on most of anything, but I have high hopes that I will do more in the future. And I think I've put up some new TikTok videos, like my Biker Scout and different things, and my Jawa and my Nazgul a little bit. But I'm going to actually try and post some of my backlog. And I mean, my only other projects that I'm really going to be doing are the Kaladin commission, like I said, the jacket and the vest, and getting my Dragonsteel Nexus stuff ready. So less stress than I thought it would be, but yeah.
Cool. And Jordan, how about you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/splicestream or Kick, same thing, or YouTube, same thing. I am, my schedule's changing as I obviously have work. I'm still trying to figure out what that's going to be, but definitely later for the streams. We've been delving hard into XCOM 2. I am working on the Tales for the Infirmary project, loving it. And I'm looking forward to when I'm recording an entire run so I can figure out the end from the beginning.
Figure out the storyline.
Yeah, but even with that, I'm starting to see storylines build up, which I love because I know it's just a random number generator. I know some soldiers aren't actually more clutch than others, But when one soldier misses 3 straight 87% shots, I can't help but feel that this soldier is not pulling their weight.
Especially when they're named after your friends. So.
Indeed. Which is the whole point of the name file.
All right. Well, as for myself, I'll promote another podcast that I am doing with Jordan and some of our other college buddies. It's called I Think We Ever Leveled, because it's a bunch of late, young to middle-aged guys who are just chatting about the good old gamers, chatting about the good old days and reminiscing about different things that stood out to them. And yeah, our most recent episode, we actually talked about the jump from 2D to 3D.
It was a good episode.
It was a fun episode where we talked about like a bunch of different series and what it was like when they shifted from a 2D focus to a 3D focus, and just what it was like living through that jump, where everything was 2D to everyone.
So with 2D, is that like more of the side scrollers?
A lot of the side scrollers would be considered 2D.
Top down as well.
3D is like, think like the iconic difference is look at Super Mario World versus Mario 64.
Okay.
Pixels versus polygons at a certain point.
Yeah. We also talked about stuff like, pixels and polygons, like with the Final Fantasy series going from Final Fantasy 6 to Final Fantasy 7. A lot of stuff like that. So, and there was even some discussion about the Virtual Boy. So, anyway, for those of you who want to support the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but you can't become patrons, we would love it if you let your friends know about the show. Just spread the word that we're here. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, to like and subscribe over on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. If you want to throw us a good review wherever you listen to it, we would absolutely love that. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment in the comment sections, stuff that you liked, any different topics that you want to weigh in on that we've discussed during the show, etc., etc. We would love to hear from you. All right, final thoughts before we close up.
I'm so proud of Adolin for going to check on Gallant before he got to the elevator. A good Adolin horse boy.
He likes his horse. I do like that Gallant is kind of becoming Adolin's horse.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad for Gallant losing his bond, not losing his bond, but his bond, emotional bond with Gallant are kind of having to atrophy through necessity. But I do like that Adolin is kind of getting some healing for his loss of Sureblood, and that Dalinar doesn't have to worry that
Gallant neglected,
and Gallant gets to, actually still get used. I mean, he's a magnificent creature. It'd be a shame for him to just be stabled or so. Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
There's a lot.
Well. Yep. Well, in addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook under the profile @Cosmere Studies. For our next episode, we're going to have more Wind and Truth. It's just coming. This is going to be the story until we hit Dragonsteel. And even then, there may be, then we're going to have the actual book to discuss. So, but join us for the chat, in the chat for the live discussion on Monday, October 21st, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time at 10:30 p.m. Eastern at www.youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. Until then, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember,
there's always another secret.